All right, let's jump right into this explainer. We're going to discover how just a few simple questions can absolutely transform how you tackle those messy, real-world problems we all face. You know, the ones where the usual quick fixes just aren't cutting it. Today, we're unpacking a framework that helps you start thinking systemically. And the best part? You literally don't need an advanced degree in math or any fancy modeling software. We're going to see how simply stepping back and asking the right questions can untangle even the absolute messiest professional challenges.
To guide our explainer today, we've got a quick roadmap. We'll start with the late project problem, look at what systems thinking adds, walk through 5 questions to ask, touch on anticipating the ripple effects, and wrap up with your systems thinking pathway. Okay, Section 1, the late project problem. Let's set the scene with a super familiar scenario. Picture this. You've just joined a project team. The deadline just slipped right past you, and suddenly everyone is pointing fingers. It's total chaos. Some folks are blaming poor planning, others are screaming about weak communication, software bugs, or insane pressure from leadership. It's just this giant mess of conflicting opinions, and naturally, every single person thinks they're the only one who hit the nail on the head.
And as the project slips past its milestones, from week 1's poor planning excuses all the way to week 8's supplier delays, every department fiercely defends their own story. But here's the real kicker. Each of these excuses, they probably do contain a tiny piece of the truth, but no single explanation tells the whole story. This right here is the absolute hallmark of a situation that demands a totally different way of thinking.
Which brings us to Section 2, what systems thinking adds, or moving beyond direct fixes.
Now take a look at the sharp contrast we have here. On the left side, you've got a straightforward problem, right? Clear cause, clear boundary, direct fix. You find the broken gear, you replace it. Boom, done. But over on the right, we've got a complex situation. We're talking interacting parts, totally unclear boundaries, unintended consequences. Fixing something in one spot might literally trigger a completely new disaster somewhere else. What looks like a simple tech issue on the surface is actually this tangled web of people, processes, incentives, the whole shebang. A direct cause and fix approach is great for the easy stuff, but it completely falls apart when you're dealing with a complex, interacting network.
So here's the absolute crucial takeaway. Systems thinking doesn't replace your specialist engineering or your standard analysis. Not at all. It complements them. It basically forces us to slow down before we just leap to a solution. Like before we impulsively declare we need to fire the supplier or hire 10 more coders, it gives us a structured way to map out the wider situation by really looking at relationships, boundaries, and context.
All right, let's move to Section 3, 5 questions to ask. These are going to be your essential tools.
Question number 1 is simply, what is the wider situation? You see, when a project runs late, our immediate gut instinct is to ask who caused the delay. But honestly, that's a massive trap. Instead, we really need to step back and ask, what is happening, who's involved, and why does it matter? By zooming out, we might suddenly realize this delay involves review boards, frustrated customers, shifting leadership pressures. It's not just the immediate project team. And getting that broader view is exactly what stops us from treating a single symptom like it's the entire disease.
Moving on to question 2. Where are the boundaries? What are we deliberately choosing to look at or totally ignore? Think about it. If we only look at the core project team, well, it just looks like a simple failure to execute. But the second you expand that boundary to include your suppliers, the messy approval processes, and the end users, the reality of the problem completely shifts.
Now, boundaries are absolutely necessary, right? You obviously can't solve the entire world's problems at once. But we have to remember that they are choices. Systems thinking just helps you grasp the actual consequences of where you draw that line. If you draw it too narrowly, you're going to completely miss the root cause. But if you draw it too widely, you just end up paralyzed by all the data.
Next up, question 3. What relationships matter? Here, we're really hunting for connections, dependencies, and flows. For instance, say a tiny change in requirements pops up. That directly affects the design work. Then, that design change impacts the suppliers. And guess what? Supplier delays cascade right into integration testing. So the real culprit might not be one weak link. It's so often the entire pattern of relationships between all these interacting pieces.
Which brings us to question 4. What patterns are occurring over time? This one is a real game changer because it forces us to stop playing whack-a-mole with isolated, one-off fires and start hunting for recurring trends and delayed consequences.
Just look at it this way. If your project schedule slips every single time you hit the integration and testing phase, well, that's not just bad luck anymore. That reveals a much deeper structural pattern. It's basically flashing a giant warning sign that you have a systemic issue with discovering problems way too late. And spotting that takes us right out of reactive crisis mode and into true systemic understanding.
Let's transition into Section 4, Anticipating the Ripple Effects. Look before you leap.
So our fifth and final question really forces us to confront unintended consequences. We have to ask, what might happen if we intervene? We can't just stop at, will this fix the problem? We absolutely have to ask, what else is this going to change? Like, sure, adding more review boards might boost your quality, but it's totally going to slow down decisions. Or throwing more people at a late project. It might help, or it might just create a massive coordination nightmare and slow things down even more.
And that leads us to this highly dangerous yet insanely common feedback loop. Imagine you're under intense schedule pressure. So management decides to take a few shortcuts. Maybe they cut back on testing. Okay, short term, you recover your schedule. Phew. But wait, those shortcuts just created hidden defects. Those defects are eventually going to require massive rework. And that rework? It creates even more schedule pressure than you had in the first place. Your direct fix literally just amplified the exact disease you were trying to cure. Crazy, right?
All right, let's wrap this up with Section 5, your systems thinking pathway. How to apply these steps.
Seriously, I highly recommend keeping this 5-question checklist handy. Whether you're an early career professional, a seasoned manager, or an engineer from a totally different discipline, mastering these simple, non-technical questions is for sure your first true step into systems engineering. You don't need to go out and learn complicated modeling languages today. You literally just need to start asking these questions to begin seeing your messy reality so much more clearly.
Remember, your first step is simply asking better questions, sketching out a rough map of those relationships, and truly listening to multiple perspectives. It's all about connecting those local actions to their wider consequences. And, hey, when you are ready to dive deeper into the actual science and modeling behind this, definitely check out the SEBOK pathway. That's the systems engineering body of knowledge. It is a fantastic bridge from these foundational concepts straight into advanced systems approaches.
Ultimately, the whole goal here is to completely shift your perspective. So, the next time a deadline slips or a big project goes totally off the rails, I want you to stop asking, what is broken? And instead ask yourself this: how is this situation connected, changing, and shaped by the very way we choose to see it? Definitely something to chew on as you tackle your next big challenge.